Welcome to the party, pal. I'm Commander Tom, and welcome back to the ASO, the Arcade Survival Online server. I want to jump into it immediately today by building a few basic Redstone 101 builds. Simple contraptions that anyone who doesn't even understand the concepts of Redstone can build to save them labor and stock up supplies. Now, to give you an idea of the exterior, this is my storage room. It's going to be a castle keep. I'm going to develop it as we go, but it was more important to me to get a storage room set up so we can actually try to avoid a chest monster this time. Lord have mercy, I've lived through that too many times. What I think we're going to do here is right around this corner is where we're going to start up with the most basic of machines here. A good old-fashioned cattle crusher and an egg farm. I need to get the eggs built up before I can make the automatic chicken cooker, so we'll go ahead and combine those two things together. And then, though it's not redstone, I'm also thinking that in this space we'll go ahead and add a little bit of a sheep farm, simply for the fact that I've seen sheep around here and I'm going to need the wool for an iron farm here shortly. So I might as well go ahead and take care of several of those things at once. Thinking down the road a few steps is a great tip for any early game Minecrafter. Let me go ahead, fill in some creeper holes, and get some basic areas taken care of. Go ahead and start off with one of my favorites, the cattle crusher. Steak is good food, leather's great for books. Go ahead and drop down a chest, put a hopper funnel directly into it. Then we are going to need a water dispenser, so we go ahead and put a dispenser so it targets the water directly over the hopper. And then we're going to take some logs, and on two of the sides at least, we're going to drop those surrounding the hopper. Now we do need to have this too high, so we're going to go ahead and hop up and put a second log over both of the first logs and the dispenser. Now we want to be able to open the chest, so we need to be able to put a stair directly over the chest. I'm going to put a temporary wall right next to it so I can click on it for ease of access, and then crouch and drop that in. That way we can still open the chest, yet we have the cattle contained. Go ahead and drop that second log in there, and most of your work is already done for the cattle crusher. Now for ease of access, you're probably going to want to grab some stairs and go ahead and create a convenient walkway from the ground level up to the top of the crusher. You can make this as formal, as pretty, or as basic as you like, but what we need here is a way to be able to conveniently get up to the top of the crusher so that when you are luring in the initial breeding cattle with your hay, that you do have the ability to conveniently walk up there. I like to use stairs just for super simplicity, but you don't have to use stairs. Cattle can handle just jumping block to block. That is a personal preference option at that point. And I'm not thinking ahead very much. You can tell I'm doing too much talking and building. So let me get this knocked out real quick, and I'll catch you in a minute. Once you've got the crusher set up, you're going to want to add a button onto the block on top of the dispenser. And with a simple access, you'll be able to turn the water on and off. Your cattle are going to bounce in that water, so that is the reason for it. What we're going to want to do is grab a fence post and make sure we do get that directly over the block, but that's something that you're probably going to want to wait for until the cattle are inside. That way they stay in there. When the water is up, they are contained, and they bob up and down for ease of access. Next, we're going to go ahead and start with an egg farm. Basically, you're going to have a hopper drop into the same chest that is collecting the steak and leather, but you're going to surround that with, probably I'd recommend, a lot of people use 2 blocks high, some use glass for visibility. I prefer 1 block and 1 slab, but ultimately it's your own personal choice. But I prefer the block and the slab just because it's about the right height for the chickens to be contained, but I think it leaves access for feeding, especially when you're just going to be putting a trapdoor on top of them. Now, from my gathering eggs wildly, as well as from a prior egg farm in a different location, I've got a supply of eggs. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is put that trapdoor on top of the second block height above the hopper, and go ahead and open that up. That way it's easy to close it when I'm done. And now for those of you who want to say that I'm cheating, no, I'm not. I'm not admin or anything on this server. This is not single player. I'm doing the gloriously boring job of leading more cattle into this crusher. This is how I found the first batch, but I found a second batch. And the more adult cattle that you can get into this crusher to begin with, the faster you start getting profits of steak and leather from it. But it does mean you've got a bit of a job of coaxing them up here, and then you've got the fun job of bumping them in. I do find that if you have multiple cattle, if you kind of bump one cow into the other cow, it kind of helps to get them in there. It almost feels like going one cow at a time is harder. But there's no real easy way unless you want to build a much larger trap and try and flood them in. But that it's a headache one way or the other. But it's a headache we've got to do if you want to have a convenient steak machine. So this is the joy for all of those people who want to say I'm a cheater. Nope, I did this the hard way in legit survival. Now, moving from animals to plants, I want to show you what is probably the simplest redstone sugarcane or bamboo farm you can build. You literally get pistons just aimed at the second level of either crop, put a block behind the piston, and get redstone dust on top of the block. And then you're simply going to need to have that be triggered on a regular basis. Go ahead and pop off the equipment I've used to kind of test the circuits a little bit. The switch is especially just what I use to make sure that I've got repeaters set up on the right place to help keep the circuit extended. And then, as you can tell, what I recommend for setting up automation in early days, especially before anyone has slime, is to make use of a daylight sensor. So in this design, I am going to move this out just a little bit so I have room for the signal to be received here on this square. And then I'm going to hop up just a little bit so I've got room for both the daylight sensor that needs to pick up the signal from the sun. And then we'll go ahead and move the block underneath it. I'm not going to worry about that. And then we'll get a observer which will monitor the different strength levels. As the sun moves up and over, it'll have different light levels to this. So this will give different signals throughout the day, giving you multiple pushes throughout the day. It's a great system for the early days needing of repetitive harvest. And then underneath the observer, we'll drop a redstone, which will then go into a repeater to boost it to activate all of the pistons. And then through that system, you will have something that will automatically harvest your sugarcane and your bamboo into this chest below. Pretty simple. Finally, my favorite. No early day redstone game could be completed without my favorite, the double burner smelter system. Go ahead and start by dropping in a double chest. Behind it, put in 2 hoppers. On top of each hopper, drop a smelter. On each smelter, put a hopper on top and plugging in front. And then on each of these hoppers, we're going to go ahead and put another chest. The upper chest will be what you smelt, the middle chest will be your fuel, the lowest chest will be your output. But this is a pretty solid system, as well as a home for all the coal you mine in the early days, to be able to smelt even medium-sized quantities. I've been very happy with this, and I go long-term in the game on this setup. But since recent upgrades for XP, we can now upgrade this. Get yourself a lamp and go ahead and put that directly next to the hopper with a switch, and come around to the back side. By the blocks that are directly next to the lowest hoppers, we're going to go ahead and drop redstone dust on top of that. That will create a hopper lock. And I'll go ahead and give an example of how that works. But basically, if we lock these hoppers after they've smelted some items, we'll be able to then pull items manually from these furnaces and be able to then capture the XP. Now if you take a look here quickly, you'll see items just flowing through very quickly. When the light is on, the hopper is locked, and if I click on the actual furnaces themselves, you'll see that they stay and start to stack up. If I take that away, we'll start to be able to pull XP from these machines. So this gets to be an XP bank, or just an XP generator. But in the early days, that is very convenient. So I hope that helped. If redstone tips like this are something you're interested in, leave a like and subscribe. I drop videos like this each week. If you want to see more, that's what playlists are for. I'm Commander Tom, and I will see you next mine. Thanks.